Top of the morning to you on this St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2016. And this is our Mastermind call number 66. Thank you all for taking the time to be here today. We already have one person in the queue, but I can't say it too many times. Please, we want your guys' participation. We used to have an open forum where everybody could talk, and it just got too noisy. So, again, if you want to participate, hit *6, then wait for the prompt, and then hit 1, and you'll get put into the queue. And we do have one person in there now. Tim, anything you want to share to get started? Timothy, are you there?
Yep, sorry, I was muted, so I didn't make background noise.
Okay.
Only thing I was going to say is it is indeed St. Patrick's Day. Spring is beginning to spring. I hope you guys are all beginning to experience good spring weather, and it's time to get rolling. So this is a great place to kick your year into high gear, and we're hoping to help you do that. So thanks for being with us today.
Excellent. And we have a lot of new first-time people on this call. I know that for a fact, and we have a lot of prospective clients also. For you, I want to make sure I mention this on every call. We now have 4 partners and 4 employees. If any of you ever need help with anything, you know you can always call me, but you also know I'm always on the phone. So anytime you need any help with any aspect of our service, what we offer, we had someone yesterday that was having difficulty opening an Excel spreadsheet. And, to people like Chad, that sounds funny. To guys my age, it seems kind of reasonable. But any issues you have, any problems, just send an email to support@alltheleads.com because we all read that, and the best person to help you will usually get back to you in 10 minutes or less. We're really fanatical about customer service, and we will get right back to you, and that's the best way to get help with anything you need. Chad, before we go to the questions, did you have anything that you wanted to share this week?
Yeah, I did want to talk about the one thing that I've talked to a lot of folks this week who are new in their camp, new in this strategy, and they're on their first round of phone calls, and people will have called me discouraged because they find out that 20 or 30% of the homes don't want to sell or have already sold. And I think that's something that, we can do a better job in setting expectations. And so statistically, almost 70% of people will own a piece of real estate when they pass away. Some are going to list before to clear assets so that Medicare will pick up long-term care. Some will just, move their parents in with them and go ahead and sell the assets. There's a million different variables that come into play and end-of-life planning. So for those of you that are just getting started, if you're not, if you talk to somebody and they say, oh, we sold that 3 months ago, it's not that the data is bad. It's the public data that we pulled. It's fresh. It's just that they had a plan. They were proactive. So don't get discouraged. Like if it's all about mindset. If you have the mindset of, okay, I know there's, 2 to 8% of the people on this list I'll have closings from that. So I just need to find that 2 to 8% and forget the other, 92 to 92%. Personally, my results, if I would send 3 letters, make 3 phone calls, I kind of worked it down to a science where I had about a 6% conversion. So if I started with 100 probate leads, I could usually end up with 6 closings that quarter. So I focused on 6%, not, the ones that I didn't get. And that's how you can always, it's all about mindset. And once people understand that, they're kind of like, oh, okay, I'm excited to get back on the phones now. But a lot of people start out with the expectation that every single phone call is going to be a listing. And that's not true. You just have to find out which of those families actually need your help and just keep calling until you find the ones that raise their hand.
Absolutely. And, Chad, I've heard you say before, it's a heck of a lot better than FSBOs or expireds, which you really don't even know how much they want to sell. Sometimes their motivation's not real high. And for sure, if you're in a major market, 100 agents are calling them. So here you
or anything else. I mean, we had a 40-to-1, usually you can expect about a 40-to-1 conversion on a house value lead, internet lead, FSBOs are probably worse than that, depending on how many people are prospecting in your market. So the point I want to get across is just don't get discouraged if you find out that houses have been sold or the family's not selling, or even if they didn't own real estate, because we're pulling 100% of everything on a 30-day basis from public records and giving it all to you. So it's your job to find the opportunity and find ways to help the people who need it. And don't let that discourage you. I mean, that's why you're doing it, right?
100%. I just finished doing a radio show about a half hour ago, and a question came up on there too. You talk about percentages. You know, somebody asked me, or the host asked me, you know, what triggers a probate? What properties go to probate? And it varies slightly from state to state, but as a rule, unless you have a living trust, you're going to have to go through probate. A lot of people think if there's a will, there's no probate required, and actually just the opposite is the case. Probate is kind of the final way to settle the will, make sure the rightful heirs get the title, and make sure all the debts get paid. And really the only consistent way to bypass real estate is get a living trust, and it's amazing 5% of Americans have a living trust. You know, I had about 2 years ago, I got a $3 million listing where the guy died without a will. I mean, just because people have money doesn't mean that nobody plans on dying, and unfortunately, most of us do not plan that far ahead. So, for a statistic we talked about this morning on the radio show, $136 trillion worth of assets are going to change hands. The biggest wealth distribution in the history of the country is going to occur over the next few decades, and 5% of them will have trusts. The other 95% are going to be probate, and there are going to be opportunities for all you guys on the call. So we appreciate you being here. I guess, Roger, if Roger or Lou Levine are on, last chance, hit *6 and then hit 1. And I just wanted them to share their wins with you. I'll give them a little bit of time, and if not, I'll go ahead and tell you their experiences myself. For now, we do have 2 callers in the queue, so we'll go to the first one. And again, guys, please, the more questions, the more participation, the better. Hit *6 and hit 1 if you'd like to be the next person up. And let me start with area code 601. You are up. 601, can you hear me?
Yeah, well, this is Rodell Bledsoe.
Hey, Rodell. Yes, sir, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I was finishing, I had a situation where I had a house in Cornland. It was a little town outside of Springfield here. The person was in the nursing home and was not able to come back home, and the house had to be sold. And so the executor, an only son, lived in Florida, worked for Disney World, and he came up, and we got the house sold, got it all taken care of, got everything out. And when we were closing, the interesting thing was the Medicare had already filed a lien and was wanting, they anticipated the house would sell for $40,000 or $50,000. They had about a $25,000 lien on the house. Well, the house only sold for $15,000. The interesting thing was all the work and preparation to get the house ready, the labor, the closing costs, everything was deducted off of the was deducted out of that, and the commission for selling it, all of it was deducted out before Medicare got anything. They got about $6,000 or $7,000 out of the 15.
Wow.
And a lot of times, people say, well, Medicare's got a lien against this house, so it's going to be difficult to sell. No, it's not difficult to sell. Those closing costs will come off the top generally without any problem.
Right.
And so don't let the fact that it's got a lien on it, or it's got when we did the Donovan estate, before we could ever close, we went to closing the first time on 16 properties, and we had to walk out of closing without closing because we had to have a court order. The executor had to sign a court order. The judge did, allowing us to sell it.
Got it.
And then once it was sold, we had to get it appraised and then sold within 85% of what the appraised value was. But it sold, and it was something that if there were liens, and there was a ton of liens on one, it was just a long list of liens.
Sure.
Against it, and so, but when they went into court to get the clear title, all the liens were dismissed by the judge. So the liens, the things against the property, doesn't affect it being sold. It can sell. The costs are taken out. It has nothing to do with it. Only in one instance did the seller actually have to bring money to the table.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it, Riddell. It kind of reminds me of before I got into this, we had a short sale company. My wife's closed over 2,000 short sales, and it's the same thing. People used to think IRS liens and mechanic liens and, it would stop the sale, and it almost never did. And I'm glad to hear. I don't think you got a big commission on that one, but I'm glad to hear you got your commission before everybody else got paid. That's the main thing. Well, I appreciate that story. I really appreciate it, Riddell. We have a couple other people in the queue. Are you good, or do you have anything else?
No, I'm fine.
All right. Thank you for contributing that. The next up is area code 410. 410. You are up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jim, this is John Boring. How are you?
Hey, great, John.
I, as you know, have not signed up with you guys yet. You gave me the access code here to listen in a little bit. I had a few. You threw some numbers at me yesterday, and I had some questions on it.
Sure. You there, sir?
Oh,
I lost
I'm there.
you. Okay, lost you for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah. As far as the percentage of people or the percentage of these homes that are in probate that actually go to sale, I think you give me different time frames, like the first 3 months, the next 6 months, and the first year.
Yeah, and this is just, observational. I haven't seen it anywhere, but from what my own experience and what we've seen, about 60 of these will actually sell within 6 months, and 90% of them sell within a year. And the reason for that, there's a variety of reasons for that. Some probates take 3 months. If it's a really complicated one, it can take a lot longer. But I think the overwhelming reason for that is, John, you will have people that will put your letter away and call you a year later and just say, we just couldn't bring ourselves to go through mom and dad's stuff. We finally bit the bullet. We did it. Now we're ready to do something. So it's usually, if there's a significant delay of more than 6 months, more often than not, it's just because the executors just aren't quite ready to emotionally or logistically pull the trigger yet.
Okay. And you say they sell within 6 months or a year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually sold transactions, the property switched hands and everything within that time period, or they're listed at that time period. That's
been my experience. Chad, do you have a take on that? You talk to a lot more of our clients than I do.
Yeah, I'll just kind of start from the beginning. So what I've tracked and found is, and there's usually a median of 68 days from the time somebody passes away until the family files probate. So what that tells me is, the fact that they gathered up all the paperwork, went to the courthouse, that's kind of the signal of, okay, at some stage, we're emotionally ready to tackle this. Some people go the day after the death, and some people wait 10 years. Because they didn't even know what probate was. We had one of those. I've had one all the way back in 1983 that filed in 2014. But once they take that step to file the probate, that's kind of a signal to the world of, okay, I'm ready to settle this out. And there's going to be a certain percentage, it's a small percentage that will have multiple heirs. They're probably fighting with each other, and they just want to fire sale. So there will be some that will come off quick as cash, and then those typically end up being cash deals because they're as is, where is, closed yesterday kind of deals. The rest, there are so many variables it's hard to even track, but my experience is about like Jim's. Usually within 3 months, the house will be listed. And usually, you know, in my business, we price, you know, based on their target date and their goals. I mean, we try to price at market or slightly below, but typically these are as-is homes, so they're a really good value. They're, you know, they're dated in my market anyway. They're, you know, they're in incredibly good shape, but they need kitchen and bathroom updates and everything. So we can price below the retail market and find a buyer that's willing to put money, you know, to renovate the homes. So we're not fire selling, but we can usually sell within 30 days. So like our cash conversion cycle in this is less than 90 days, which is quicker than almost any form of business we do. And like Jim said, some people will get caught in, and I've kind of deemed it the probate quicksand. It typically has to do with personal property. So if you have, you know, there's an 1,800 square foot house and a walk-up attic that's chock full and the basement's completely full, and you know, Dad's '67 Thunderbird is still in the garage. Like, some people take a long time to really get to the point emotionally where they're ready to go through the house and empty it out. And that's what we teach, is to align yourself with you know, key professionals, and one of those is the estate sale company. And just having that backstop in place, letting people know that you know, you got their back, usually spurs them into action, and they break through the procrastination. So I'd say the majority will list and close within 6 months, but there's always going to be some that you know, I mean, I've listed homes 10 months from the time they got my last letter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really spread out. Each market's a little bit different. It's incredibly hard to track, but that's been my experience.
Chad, you had one of my favorite stories maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago. We had an agent that it was about like a year and a half since the probate, and the reason they hadn't sold it, their dad had a house full of the old Lionel trains that were all working. I mean, like just every room was filled up with them, and the trains were probably worth as much as the house, but they couldn't figure out how to get rid of them. And the agent started calling around the state liquidation companies and found somebody, an auction company that was good with that kind of stuff. Company came in, sold them in an afternoon, and they listed and sold the property the next day. So it's about solving problems. A lot of times the delay is because people they don't know what they don't know, and they have problems that aren't that tough to solve, and they over dramatize how difficult it's going to be, and they do nothing. So there's almost always a solution. Go ahead.
And usually, like, you know, by asking good questions, you can help people out of their own way. And that's something we teach. I'm not a pushy salesperson at all, but if I know somebody's standing in their own way, if their procrastination is leaving a house vacant that's getting in worse condition each day, then I'm gonna nudge them through the process. And having confidence in your business and why you're doing this, and really understanding the probate process and what they have to go through, will help you do that. And they, you know, when you're really confident in your offer, they're confident in you, and they'll take that guidance. And I've actually never found somebody that it made sense for me to let them procrastinate. It made more sense for me to explain to them the reason why they shouldn't procrastinate, and then give them a plan of action, not get off the phone and say, okay, I'll call you back in 3 months. Is that okay? It's, well, listen, let's consider this, Mr. Seller, and you jump in and show them the benefits of working with you and having a plan now versus not having one another 2 months down the road. So through asking good questions, you can shorten the cash conversion cycle by providing a high level of service and getting people to do what they know they probably should do. They just haven't yet because it's uncomfortable.
Right. So let me ask you this, because Jim, yesterday you told me there's a few people you should align yourself with as well, other than a estate sale company. Mm-hmm. What about do these people, are they usually already working with an attorney?
Yeah, almost always, except in Virginia, right, Chad?
Yeah, we're in a commonwealth, so attorneys don't commonly help. So they're going to be working with a probate attorney, and the scope of that his or her job is, you know, to deal just with the probate. We ask you to align with a great title attorney as well, because when you do uncover one with title issues, typically the probate attorney is not going to work real hard. So I suggest you get a really good title attorney that when you hit resistance, they will do whatever it takes to keep the deal moving forward. Otherwise, you're the one that has to keep that ball moving forward.
What are the other companies you guys recommend other than the estate sale company and title attorney?
Well, it's not an exhaustive list. So, I mean, you definitely want to have a cash buyer list. And, you know, make sure you have guys, I would suggest at least one landlord and at least one flipper that you trust will close on time every time. The title attorney, the estate sale company, we use different tiers of estate sale companies. So we have, you know, I have a full-blown estate sale company, kind of a flea market guy that will clean out a house for free just to keep what's inside of it, and then just a straight clean-out crew that would just, you know, you just fill a roll off and take it to the dump. So, and then contractors, I have two levels of contractors. I have a punch work guy and I have a full renovation guy.
Right.
And there's, just think about who's my ideal client, what is their problem, and who can I bring in to help. So estate planning attorneys, you know, if a widow has filed probate but she still lives in the house she's not ready to sell, she doesn't have an estate plan, you know, you can bring in a family law attorney and say, well, listen, you know how stressful this is now that you're going through it. How about we help you put an estate plan in place so your kids don't have to go through this? And even if she's not selling the home, you can still provide value to her. And what we find is a lot of times widows or, you know, surviving spouses they don't want to sell until they realize they have to sell. And that's usually about this time of year when the grass starts growing and the gutters need cleaned and they can't keep up with everything and they realize, oh my gosh, I really can't do this. So if you can just think of who can you bring into the fold and layer in value into every conversation, like who can help you really stand out and really make a difference. When the time comes to sell that house, you'll be the only realtor in the world.
Okay.
Excellent. That one more person in the queue. Any other questions? Thank you for asking, John. You good, John?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Again, guys, *6 and then hit 1. We've got one more person in the queue. We probably have time for 3 or 4 more questions. So *6, wait for the prompt, and hit 1. And again, Lou Levine or Roger, if you are on the line, please hit *6 and hit 1. Area code 714, you're up.
Hi, this is Bob Faust.
Hey, Bob.
How you doing?
Excellent. How about you?
Pretty good. Hey, I've been making all my phone calls. I've done everything I'm supposed to do, sent the letters, etc. I'm making the phone calls. I'd like to know where you get the phone numbers, because on several occasions now, I got the same John. I got John Smith, but it wasn't the John Smith who was handling the estate for George Smith.
Right.
It was totally somewhere else, and they didn't want the phone call.
I can't imagine there'd be any town in the country where there'd be 2 John Smiths.
Well, it wasn't Smith. Okay, I'm using that example.
I'm just kidding.
You list 4 or 5 phone numbers, many cases.
Yeah.
Where do those come from?
Yes, go ahead, sir. Finish. I'm sorry.
Where do those phone numbers come from? Are they off of the documents that are filed at the court? Because that doesn't seem right. That they
No,
would be
not
wrong.
at all. And that's one of the. And my partner Tim's going to answer this question. He's our tech genius, but the court doesn't supply any phone numbers, and that's one of our highest values. So Tim, take it away.
Okay. Actually, one correction. In some cases, the court, in fact, does give us a phone number, and we do use it if they do, but we actually use a variety of other sources to get the phone numbers, and they're presented to you in the order in which we get them and the degree of confidence that we have that they are the best phone number. It's trying to give you as many opportunities as possible to talk to anyone that might let you reach that person. And that's really all that we can do. We can only give you one. If you don't want to have that problem, just call the first number. And, you know, if you don't get somebody there and it's the wrong person, then move to the next one. How you call it is up to you, but we're just trying to give you the best opportunity to contact the person that's listed in the document by that name at that address.
And usually by the 4th or 5th phone number, it will be, or often by the 4th or 5th phone number, it might just be somebody else who lives at that address or somebody.
Or a family member, or someone who's associated in a business environment with that person, or simply someone with that same name that is the other choice. And that could be a more obscure name than John Smith. It could be the same guy that there are two of in a town. There are two of my name in my town, and it's not a huge town, and I get his calls sometimes and he gets mine. But anyway, I'm just saying, sometimes that happens.
Okay, that clears it up, because I was confused that the court would have bad phone numbers, but they don't give you any for it.
You know what's funny about that is that it's great that you said that as well. Occasionally, the courts, like Jim said, most of the time we don't get it. Most of the time, the numbers that we get from the court frequently are wrong, actually. And that's because they're all entered by hand, and they're not being processed by the phone companies and the other places that we get a lot of our data. And so sometimes they're very much not the right number, but they'll be off by a digit here and there. We see that. So that's why we give you as many numbers as we can.
And Chad,
okay, I have a second question, if I might.
Please, go ahead, Bob.
In making the phone calls, I'm getting more than 50% no answer. I get a voice message. I can leave a voice message, which I do. But is that pretty typical that voice messages are half of what you call, you're going to get a voice message? And corollary to that question, is there a better time that you recommend calling so that you don't get the voice message?
Chad has a great answer about the time, and I think the voice messaging probably will tell you something about that as well. Chad?
Yep. So, Bob, you want to log into subscriber resources, and under step 4 with the heading Make Your Phone Calls, the very first attachment is an MIT study that was done based on 86,000 real estate prospecting calls. I changed my entire business after I read that just to try it out. Well, I tried it out first, and then I changed everything. So, in a nutshell, your contact rates are the amount of voicemails you're leaving is going to be dependent on what time of day you're calling and what time of the week. And what that study shows in a nutshell is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. What's interesting, and I started doing just those days were my office days, and those blocks were my prospecting blocks. And I only look at houses on Fridays and Mondays, which created a great sense of urgency, and it made appointment setting so much easier in my business, because it's all right. So we look at houses on Fridays and Mondays. I've only got one more spot on Friday with 3 o'clock work, and that paints the picture that I'm busy. I don't have time to look at houses every day. I'm controlling the conversation, and that really helps. So you don't have to do that, but I encourage you to at least look at those call blocks, read that study, and kind of see where you're making compared to where you're making your phone calls, and try that. Block off your calendar and say 8 to 10 in the morning and 4 to 7. I'm going to make these phone calls. What we find, the guys that have followed this and really tracked every phone call, they're getting about a 2-to-1 contact rate during those times. So if they make 50 phone calls, they'll have 25 conversations.
Okay,
and then,
that's good.
Chad,
thanks so much.
A follow-up on that, Chad. Typically, and this is another misconception, no matter how hard we try, we are not going to get good phone numbers for 100% of the people. I think the agents tell us somewhere between 80 and 90% of the time at least one of the phone numbers is good. And then another question, Chad, you do recommend leaving a voicemail, right? And if so, what would you say?
I do, and it's important that, as real estate agents, we're always excited to tell people what we do. And I think that's a huge mistake in voicemail. With the only point, think about, why am I leaving a voicemail? Well, I want my phone to ring. So don't try to sell real estate or sell services in a voicemail. Give them a reason to call you back. So just a really simple message like, hey, this is Bob Faust. I sent you a letter last week. Just wanted to make sure you got that and you understood why we sent it. Give me a call when you have a second, and leave your number and get off the phone. And keep it simple. And I learned that by, I failed first on that. I used to talk about, well, we do this and we do this and I'm this. I don't even tell them I'm a real estate agent. I say, I sent you a letter and I wanted to make sure you got it and you understood why I sent it. Please call me. And I get more callbacks on that message than anything I've ever tried.
Excellent. We have 2 more people in the queue. Does that answer your question, Bob?
Yeah, it sure does. Thank you very much.
And Bob, thank you for last week. I know you're killing it with attorneys, so keep that up and tell us about that next week, please.
Okay.
All right. Next up, area code 410. You're up.
Hey, Jim, it's John Boring again.
Yes, sir.
You guys were talking about the amount of numbers and so forth. Are you the format in which you give us the numbers? Are we able to download those into a dialer like Mojo?
Yeah, we give you the information. What you do with it is certainly up to you. If you wanted to do that, that information is in the spreadsheet that we send to you.
All right, so you could load it into Mojo or something like that to make your calls.
We're furnishing you that information.
And Chad, one of your training videos shows people how to load it into the various CRMs, correct?
I've got one for Top Producer. I mean, you're just going to map fields. You know, it's pretty straightforward, John. It comes in a CSV format.
Okay.
So you simply open Mojo. This field goes here, and this one goes here.
Got it.
And then what I would recommend is set up your call list with the name of the, Probate July 2016. So I would make that your call list so you can track once they're in there. You don't just want everything to be probate. Set up your dialer list with the month and year.
Got it. All right, thank you.
All right, one more call, guys. We're going to run a few minutes over, which we usually do. So last call, I guess we'll save the amazing testimonials. We had an agent been with us 2 months that got 7 listings, but I guess he got busy and went to take another listing appointment. We'll ask him to come back next week. I guess Lou's not on the call. So area code 360, you are going to be the last call today, and you are up, 360.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Can hear you great.
Great. Chris Kelsey got a great follow-up from the last question along the same lines. I'm a new user, have not actually started making my calls at all. Still trying to get my feet wet and a feel for the terrain. Wondering if you could recommend a caller system such as Mojo that is, I've used Mojo and it seems fairly advanced and complex. Is there a simpler caller system, or do you recommend Mojo, or could you touch on that?
Apple makes a really good one. It's called an iPhone. How many leads a month are you getting, Chris?
I have not gotten my leads yet.
Okay.
But Chris,
do you know what your projected was?
52.
52?
Sorry, what was? Yeah, with 52, I don't know that I would even use a dialer. You know, most of them are complicated and not cheap to use. With 52, that's probably a day's worth of prospecting, or if you break it into the call blocks that we talked about, definitely on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can easily reach 52 people. So I don't feel like you have to have a dialer. I think that, if you're burning through, 52 probates and 52 FSBOs and 52 expireds, that's when a dialer starts to make sense. But I think you can probably just manage it from your office phone or your cell phone.
And quite honestly, if you're getting good quality information in the people that you're reaching out to in any or all of those areas, that's going to be more than enough to keep you rocking along, I'm sure.
Cool. All
right. Anything else, Chris?
No, thank you very much.
All right. Welcome. Hey, thank you to all of you. We know we had a couple testimonials. We'll carry those over till next week. And I always end these calls by challenging everybody. Take one idea, one thought, one element that you got from this call. Go out and put it into practice and come back and tell us about it next week. Share your successes with us. In the meantime, support@alltheleads.com. You guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you same time next Thursday. Have a great week, guys. Thank you.